Today is Friday. I think it's the 5th of April. Sitting here at the house with the kitties. Don't feel terrible today, just kind of physically drained from the high level of pain I was in from my lower back herniated discs. I'll start moving around here in a little while. It's about 1 o'clock. Been watching the stock market take a dump last few days. People are freaking out, saying that the United States economy will never recover, blah, 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 blah. I remember Nixon and the wage and price freezes. I remember Carter, when if you had really good credit, your mortgage only cost you 21% interest. The U.S. economy is always on a bell curve, always has been, always will be. The problem we have has been 15, 16 years since the end of the Great Recession. And that was the last big correction we had. So we had a 16-year run of positive economic growth, and it should be on a 6-year cycle. 6 good years, then we have an off 2 or 3 years, then 6 good years and an off 2 or 3 years. During COVID, people didn't see the hurt caused by a poor economy. Since the government mandated the economy to be shut down, the government dumped trillions of dollars in direct payments to the population so they wouldn't feel the pain. And that had a perverse effect. Since trillions of dollars got dumped onto the economy, prices went up substantially. When there was no reason for it, demand wasn't there. It was just trillions of dollars put on the table, and everybody and their brother wanted to get their part of the money. So prices went up. They had a bunch of reasons for it. They said it was pandemic shortages, blah, blah, blah. No, prices went up because people knew the money was on the table and they could get it. Started a bad cycle of rent increases that has not slowed down. Landlords figured out that people would pay more for rent, so they charged more. Cell phones, they figured out people would pay more, so they charged more. Utilities, people will pay more, so they charged more. And that's what happens when you dump trillions of dollars into the economy. Price is going to go up. That's called inflation. So we're just now starting to get that back on track. And then President Trump imposed a bunch of tariffs. In the long term, that's a solid move. It'll be good for the economy. In the short term, there's going to be a lot of pain to be spread around and felt. Farmers are complaining that the exports of U.S. crops are going to cease because of the tariffs imposed by foreign governments in retaliation to tariffs imposed by President Trump. Don't mean to point out the obvious, but people still have to eat. And when populations start getting hungry because of limited imports from the U.S. because of high tariffs, trust me, those governments will lower those tariffs. On the local front, because exports are going to slow down, domestic prices should go down as well. If there's a whole bunch of grains in the U.S. that cannot be exported, they have to be sold to the U.S. market. That's going to flood the market with high supply. High supply lowers prices. Farmers are going to say, well, we can't make any money now. I don't know what to tell you. You know, your input costs are high. If commodity prices go down, import costs will go down and input costs will go down. Now, if farmers can't afford to put all the inputs in that they normally do, they won't buy them. That will increase supply of the inputs. Increased supply results in lower pricing. There will be a period of adjustment. But I've been around for a while. I remember Nixon. And I remember the wage and price freeze and the detriment it caused the economy. I remember President Carter. I remember waiting in gas lines, hoping that when I finally got to the pump, they still had gas available to sell. And I remember Carter's energy policy was for folks to wear a sweater in the wintertime and lower your thermostat. That was the official policy of the United States of America to address the energy shortage that we were suffering from. Put on a sweater. 21% mortgage rate is what it is. When I retired, I had a few so-called financial experts telling me to heavily invest in the stock market. Amos, you can't go wrong. Well, I disagree. 96% of my investments are in conventional, safe investments, not involving the stock market. About as close to zero risk as one can get. Now, on the funds I have invested in the stock market, 1 month it'll gain $13,000. The next month it will lose $14,000. Month after that it will gain $4,000. Next month it will lose $9,000. At my age group, stocks are the last thing you want to be heavy in. Choose something different. Do not go on a high-risk fund. It will recover. Problem is, will it recover before you drop dead of old age? And there's a likelihood that it will not. So, over a 20-year time span, stocks always outperform the safe investment pool. They always outperform it over 20 years. And my crystal ball is not so good that I can forecast the length of a recession. I cannot forecast what companies will go bankrupt and wipe out their stocks. There was an old man that lived in my neighborhood. He's a retired preacher. He had 100% of his retirement invested in General Motors, which was fine until General Motors went bankrupt and wiped out the common shareholders. They got nothing. Zero. And it obliterated his retirement. He died a year later. And his wife had to sell the house because it still had a mortgage and she had no income to speak of. All because he invested in General Motors. Blue chip stock at the time. It can never go bad. Well, it did. And that can happen to any publicly traded company. Be careful of your money. You work hard to get it. But anyway, That's all for this one. Thank you.